this experience was kind of funny. But anyway, I just like to do some of these experiences kind of early when I get up to see how much I remember. Because I know, a lot of experiences, you'll forget a lot if you let too many hours go by. But anyway, so I was like driving along in my Honda, and I was in the scenario. It felt like a strange street and everything, or highway. I was driving along, and I was trying to go to some little town near Monett. I was trying to go somewhere near like Monett, near that direction, for like a blind date. And then I got all confused and I couldn't figure out how to get there. So it wasn't the town of Monett, but it was somewhere near that area, like that direction, down West Sunshine Street. But anyway, I knew I was kind of lost and I couldn't figure out how to get there. So then I stopped off. It's like a little rest area that people stopped off at. But this was almost kind of like a little cave type of thing, kind of like slightly underground. And I walked in there, and there was a lot of other people in there, at least a group of like 5 or 6 guys and girls in this little cave. So I was kind of like, let's see, trying to figure out which direction. It was kind of hard. But anyway, so I started like driving this way, like on the highway for a long time. And then I knew I kind of got lost. So then I saw a little like cave type of thing, a little rest area, like underground. And so I got out of my car and I went in there. And, people were like eating lunch and had some backpacks and stuff. And that's when I met this group of like 5 or 6 like people sitting around over here, sitting around over there. So this is like the rest area. And then there was a lady that walked in too. There's a woman that walked in, and she was like, I'm trying to get to like St. Louis. And or no, she was trying to get to blah blah blah. I forgot where she said she was going to, but she said I'm trying to get to so and so. And then the group of people, they said, oh, that's up near St. Louis. They said that was up near St. Louis, and they said you got to get on I-30. And I started thinking in my head, that's not where St. Louis is. I was thinking it's, in my head, I was like, it's I-44, not I-30. I want to say I-30 goes to Dallas, Texas, through Texas, but I could be wrong. I forgot what that highway is called. But anyway, she said something. She's trying to get to a place near, she's trying to get to some place or some town. And they're like, oh, that's up near St. Louis. And that's when they said to get on I-30. And so eventually she left. And then I was just sitting there like kind of walking around, looking at the clan of people, 5 or 6 clan of people. And there probably was some homeless people in here too. But so anyway, for whatever reason, oh yeah. So they started walking out, onto the highway area to get into a van. A van was, supposed to pick them up. So I came following them out here to this area where the highway is. And then there was this van that pulled up going this direction, and we were all facing this way. And then I remember seeing the big old van door, slide open to the right side of the van. And they were about to get in, and they hurried up and sped off. It's like they were people that were supposed to pick them up and take them wherever they wanted to take them. But I guess they decided against it. Maybe there was too big of a clan of people. But it was about 5 people, you know, these guys and girls that I met in the rest area. And then they sped off. And then that's when they ended up, we all got in my car. I was in the back seat with like 2 other people, and there was 2 or 3 people in the front, which deep down inside, my car wouldn't really fit that many people. And one of the girls with really short hair was driving. And so that's kind of funny, because as I was sitting there in my own back seat, I was like, wow, this is more, it's very spacious. And, you know, in real life, it wouldn't really be that spacious. But in the scenario, I mean, I had a lot of clearance, you know, between the back seat. I mean, the back of the front seat and where I was sitting in the back seat. And I was sitting in the right seat. And then another guy and girl were sitting to my left. And then there was 2 other people in the front. And like I said, there was about 5, like 2 girls and like 3 guys. And so they got in the car with me and just kind of took over my car. I guess I agreed to take them wherever they needed to, you know, You okay, Myron? I needed to take them wherever, you know, I was going to take them to wherever they wanted to go. Okay, so then we all started to proceed to drive that way in my Honda Civic. And I was like, well, like, where are you guys needing to go? And the woman with the short hair, she kind of started to stop driving. And then she like looked back at me, and I got really good, you know, it was very vivid. She looked about, like 26 or something like that. She had really short hair, kind of had a little makeup on and stuff. And as far as I remember, she had some glasses on. And she just kind of like stared at me, and she said, we're trying to go up near Glenstone. And I was like, well, I'm trying to go like back home to check, you know, because I need to check on my cats. I told her that, and she's like, no, Glenstone, Tennessee. And I'm like, Glenstone, Tennessee? I'm like, well, I can't go that far. I need to go back home and check on my cats and stuff. And she was like, oh, yeah. She's like, I guess cats, you know, like need a lot of care and stuff. And I said, well, if you just had like 2 or 3 cats, you know, you wouldn't have to spend that much time, you know, doing stuff. But if you had a lot of cats like I do, you know, you got to spend a lot of time cleaning up litter pans and stuff like that. And she's like, oh, yeah, oh, yeah. But that was kind of funny because she was like, Glenstone, Tennessee. And I was like, thinking in my head, she's going to try to drive my car to Tennessee. But anyway, so one point in the scenario, I rolled it around in my head, and I said it probably wasn't a good idea to go meet this person on a blind date, you know. And I already had glimpses of what the person was going to look like and everything. And the other woman, too, I saw her. She had light blondish hair. She looked about 60, the one that was going up near St. Louis on I-30. And, so, I keep smelling this fucking cologne smell. Let me see. Shouldn't be any fucking cologne on me. Oh, I think it's on this, what do you call it? The tank top. Oh, wait, hold on. Myron's going to check out his kitties. Myron, you checking out your children? Myron. So, okay, so anyway, and I had I had a good one yesterday too, and another one before this, which was kind of funny too. But anyway, so yeah, I keep smelling some It probably, I don't know, got maybe from my sister when she came over. Okay, so, whatever she had on. But anyway, so as we started driving along and I told her I needed to get back home to my cats and everything, that's when all of a sudden my stepdad appeared in the front seat. And I was like, well, that's good, because then he'll make sure that they don't try to drive to Tennessee. Okay, so then we started driving off. Okay, so we started driving off, you know, like far away from this highway. And then we started going off into a neighborhood. Or, you know, driving, you know, through a neighborhood to get to wherever we were going to get to. And this is where this really weird, and this same house had been in other scenarios, or a similar house. And, or, you know, in the scenario, I knew that I had seen that house. You know, this was just, you know, programmed in the scenario. I knew I had seen it, you know, on another street at another time. But not necessarily in real life. But in the scenario, I knew I had seen it. And it was just this big old house. Like, it looked like it was 3 or 4 stories. And so during this time, there was like a really bad storm. And a lot of wind. And then over here was like a little, like, not really an official river, but like a river of just like water going on in an area that it was kind of like a flooded area over here in a park kind of area where it's nothing but you know, like grass, a low-lying area of grass and trees. And then all of a sudden, I looked over there and there's just all this like water, this real swifty, you know, like roaring water, and because it was storming and raining real hard. And so it wasn't like an official river, but you know what I mean? It was just like a flooded area. And then as I was looking at this big old house, and I know Joe was copying off of that medical building down the street on Glenstone Street. I don't think it's like that anymore. I think they renovated it or whatever. But what the fuck is on my hand? There's a fucking clone on there. I'm gonna have to wash it. Okay, and the windows were all like, well, it wasn't windows. It was like the what do you call it? The siding of the house was just all like little indentions that saw through. I mean, that where you could see through to where I guess it was all. It seemed like it was all window or glass behind these little crevices, these openings in the siding. I don't know what the siding was made of. Maybe some kind of acrylic or something. But I know there's kind of a building down there on Glenstone, that medical building. When we were little bitty, we used to go up there and see the doctor or whatever. When we were like 1 year old. And yeah, so basically the whole house, it was like all this glass behind these little openings, you know, of the siding or whatever it was. Yeah, this is exactly what it looked like too. And then I started looking back behind there, and that's when I was like, oh my God, that's just all flooded with water and stuff. I knew that it looked like it was just a dilapidated building. I don't think anybody lived there, you know, because I knew that it looked like that nobody could have lived there since it was all filled up with water. Because it was all this roaring water, you know, in this flooded area. And I knew it somehow, and then I started looking at the grassy area and stuff, and I knew that was kind of, it looked like a really low-lying area, and that it shouldn't be a place that, that, you know, where a house should have been built. So that was all kind of really vivid and everything. Okay, so, okay, let me make sure I remember everything. So after that, some kind of fucking clone smell on that. Ah, gross. Okay, so, okay, wait, let me see if I remember. Monett. Okay, hold on, let me make sure I remember. Oh, yeah. How can I forget the other part? Okay, so, and actually, I can't remember if the little, invention came first or if the invention came after this part. But this was all very vivid. Okay, so then, the last part of the scenario, after I observe all this dilapidated house, and it was, the yard was just kind of gross. There wasn't any grass, of course, because it was all flooded. It was just all muddy area, no grass, around it, to the sides of it. And I knew it looked like somebody possibly couldn't be living in there because it looked like it was all filled up with water. This 3 or 4 story house, and it's pretty wide. And, but I knew I had seen it before in the scenario. I knew I had seen it before, like at another time. Not necessarily, I didn't know, not necessarily in this dimension, the 3D dimension. And, but now I realize I have never seen a house like that. Only that building down the street that Joel was copying off of in 3D. That makes sense. Okay, so after I started looking at all that, then I just started looking at all the people in the car, and we started driving along. And, well, see, now I lost room. Okay, hold on. Okay, so then we're back all up in the car and everything. I don't know how to draw a car. Okay, so this is my car. Looks like a turtle. Okay, so then, we're back in the car, driving this way. Or, we're facing that way. We're all facing that way. And then I start looking at everybody in the car, and my stepdad turns around, and then the people in the back seat, they're like, "Here, I'm going to show you this invention that somebody created." Okay, and as far as I remember, my dad had something in his hand, like a can or something, that he needed to have covered up. And that's when the guy in the back seat, the guy that was sitting by me, he was sitting here and I was sitting there. And 3 other, that's your father, baby. Oh, look, see, they detect. I think they're detecting him. They're detecting their father. But I gotta hurry up because I gotta go get Goldie in. She gotta tend to them several times a day. So, okay, so then, that's when the guy in the back seat near me, he's like, oh, and in the car, it seemed, 3 times bigger, in the scenario, the space in the car. That's when he's like, here, look at this invention that I have, or that he had bought, that somebody had created. And, it was as big as round as a plate, as a normal 9-inch plate. And, let's see here. It had, what do you call it? It was see-through in one of the circles. Like it was see-through in one of the circles. Like this was all an opening, a gap. That was all like a gap. Where you could see through, to the floor or whatever. And then in here, it looked like an egg, like an egg yolk. And it was kind of like, it was just a real vivid yellow color. Not bright yellow or fluorescent yellow, but just a vivid yellow color. the whole thing. And in the middle, it looked like an egg yolk, and the white part of the egg. It was mainly 99% yellow, just a real vivid yellow color. And so he handed it to me, and that's when all of a sudden there was like tentacles on it. Well, it wasn't really tentacles, but it kind of looked like tentacles. And but at first when he showed it to me, it didn't have tentacles. And then when I held it in my hand, it all of a sudden had these tentacles. And then I was feeling everything, and I was like, wow, this is so sticky. It's so sticky. Well, it had to be really, really, really sticky if because somebody invented it to be able to cover anything, like any kind of surface, like glass, metal, plastic, concrete, just anything, to cover anything and to be able to stick around really tightly on any top that didn't have a top. And so yeah, I was just like, wow, it's so sticky. But it had to be, real sticky, plasticky kind of material, rubbery kind of material, to be able to clamp down and cover everything, and to be able to turn it over and no soup or anything spilt out or whatever. Oh yeah, there was another part of the scenario too. It's kind of funny. Yeah, so anyway, my stepdad, he had some kind of can or something, like he was drinking. Well, actually, I can't remember exactly what he was drinking, but she was the driver, she was the one that started drinking, like, it was like root beer. And, but my dad, I can't remember if he just had a normal can or a Coke can or whatever. But anyway, that invention was really cool. And I know Joe got that from, like, because I always watch Shark Tank and stuff. And there is some inventions kind of like that out there. But I don't think it has tentacles on it. But, the tentacles would make, sense. But anyway, so then the driver, that 26-year-old really butched off hair, she was drinking soda pop. And as far as I remember, it was kind of like root beer. And then she's like, here, do you want a can? And she turned back around in the back seat and gave me a can. And I was just drinking it and drinking it and drinking it. And I was just like, wow, it's so sweet. It's so sweet. And I was like, I knew why it tasted so sweet. Because I'm used to, not drinking real processed sugar and stuff. So to me, it tasted like a million times sweeter than what it should have tasted like. Because I never drink soda and stuff, and I couldn't believe I was sitting there drinking root beer. She had the root beer, or I had the Coca-Cola. But anyway, I can't remember if it was the root beer or the Coca-Cola. And then my dad, I thought he had like a can of like soup in his hand or something, but he could have been drinking the soda too. But that was funny. That was really vivid and everything. And I could taste it so clearly. Either the root beer or the Coca-Cola that I was drinking. But it was like so sweet. And it tasted really good, but it was just so sweet. And I couldn't believe I was sitting there drinking it, because I knew I didn't drink soda pop and stuff in real life. And I couldn't believe I was drinking it in the scenario. So that was the end of that scenario, and I almost forgot about the invention part. I'm glad I didn't forget that part. But it was just a real vivid yellow, normal yellow color. Let's see if I have it. Well, kind of like that, except it was much more, yellow than that. Just a brighter yellow. That yellow right there of the pink doll. But anyway, so, but I did have a funny experience before this one. And I had many more before that one, but I can't remember those. Where I was at work. And my boss said that, I'm just going to talk about it real fast. My boss said that I needed to sit up at the IAR desk. IAR desk, which was over here. And I was already chilling out over here at the secretary desk. Oh, I did have another work scenario too, but I think that was like yesterday or the day before. Yeah, I did. But anyway, so this was this morning before this scenario. what the hell was that? Before this scenario was before the scenario, taking the trips and everything. But I want to talk about this first because I want to make sure I didn't forget anything. Okay, so, and then, because in real life, we're supposed to talk about we're supposed to do some kind of training presentation or something like that. So in the scenario, you know, it was kind of the same situation, but my boss wanted me to sit up at the IAR desk instead of the secretary desk. And I was just kind of like, well, can I still sit up at the secretary desk and do the work? And she said yes, so I proceeded to just stay at the secretary desk. But anyway, it was longer than what I'm going to talk about. But anyway, so this part was funny. She had this little creature that lived at work that kind of looked like what's that called? A guinea pig. She had a little creature running around the office looking like a little guinea pig. And it was so cute. It was a lot bigger than my little creature. And then my little creature that I had looked like a hamster slash mouse. Except it was kind of taller and skinnier, and it just almost looked like it was walking on 2 legs lots of the times instead of 4 legs. This little hamster and mouse that I had. And I just kept like picking it up and petting it and stroking it, and it was running around the office. And she had her little dark color. It was kind of dark charcoal colored guinea pig running around the office. And I would kind of pick her little creature up and start petting it and stuff. And it was kind of like they just lived there at the office. And I know Joel probably got that from the little kitties. But the little kittens, well, I would move you over there, but you're just going to get all... let me make sure they're breathing okay. It's getting kind of chilly. I'm going to turn that back on. I want to make sure it stays kind of warm in here. But anyway, it was kind of fun experiences. But I did have a good one yesterday, too. It was this long, drawn out. All of these were pretty long. And this wasn't super duper long experience. This one was a pretty long experience. But the one yesterday was a long, drawn out experience where I was in Nixa. When I was younger, I used to go to Nixa all the time and go visit my step-grandma Leela. And we used to call her Granny Leela. We always used to call her Granny, not Grandma. Everybody called her Granny. And we would call her Granny Leela. Granny Leela. And, so I was visiting at her house. And, of course, in the scenario, it was like 3 times bigger. And I was walking around and I couldn't believe she had 3 bathrooms and like 6 bedrooms. And I was like, wow, I don't remember her house being that big, you know, when I was younger. But there was a lot of other parts to it, too. And I'd be like going in the bathrooms and I couldn't believe how big they were. And then at one point I knew to look out the front door because I knew that, you know, in real life and in the scenario, her daughter still lived at the house next to where she used to live. And both houses are designed exactly the same way. I never been in Charlotte's house, and she's still alive. She's like 85 years old, and she's always been obese and diabetic. I don't see how she lived that long, but she's still alive. She hasn't driven in a long time, supposedly. And one of the nieces goes and checks up on her. But anyway, so in the scenario, I was kind of like, well, I'm going to look out the front door and see if I remember it being how it used to be. Like, I knew that Charlotte lived, but she didn't actually move in there until after she died at the house right next to Granny Leela. And I don't know who's living there now in Granny Leela's house. But Charlotte is still living at the house beside Granny Leela. And so I started, you know, having all these visions of her house, Charlotte's house and everything. And how, all these visions of how it used to, it used to be, literally just all country, you know, from this town to Nixa. It used to be all country and nothing. And now it's all grown together in its own little suburb. Like, I wouldn't even know how to get to the old area if I went to Nixa. I don't even know where that older area is, where Granny Leela and Charlotte lives. But anyway, it was a fun scenario. I was in the scenario a long time, and he gives me scenarios like that time and time again. You know, Joel, but he switches things up, and it's so cool. Like, There's 6 other bedrooms and 3 other bathrooms. And then there was this other part of the scenario where, like, I had to go to the bathroom, and this was in the other part of the house, and so there was like a bathroom over here, this big old bathroom, and there was like a lot of toilets and everything, and it seemed like it was connected to some kind of office or something, and there were some strange men like walking around, and this was all part of her house, and but there was it was like all windows, you know, above the bathroom, like all windows, and I'm like, how are you supposed to have any privacy, you know? But anyway, that was kind of funny. Joel's always doing stuff like that, putting you in bathrooms and like there's no doors on them or anything. But it's kind of funny. But that was a really long scenario, and it was really fun. But this one this morning was kind of fun too. And all the water and the storm and everything was kind of it was kind of cool. Oh, that was in this part. It was kind of cool and very vivid and everything, but it was kind of fun. I'm sure I've had lots of others, but some of them I just don't talk about because they're too personal or whatever. But I better go get little Goldie in because she needs to check on her children. Myron! Well, look, Myron keeps wanting to check on his little children. Okay, Myron, well, see, look, he knows they're his babies. See, I know them's my babies. Okay, we gotta go get Goldie in. Yeah, make sure they're breathing and he's not too covered up. Well, I suspect the one that looks like Myron is a boy, but I don't know. I gotta go get them in. Well, thanks for listening. Hey, Myron.